I'm here today with the legendary Tim Ripper Owens to talk about Ripper's Return to Death Row EP that came out in December of last year. How are you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem, man.
Let me start off by asking you this. What was the inspiration? What was the trigger that somebody switched on when it came to recording this EP and putting this whole thing together?
Well, it was started with Jamey Jasta's brainstorm of an idea. I think about 10 years ago, we were on the motorboat cruise. I was doing his podcast, and he was like, "Man, we should do a record together and do a brutal record. You should do a brutal record. You gotta get to that jugulator and Beyond Fear roots and just smack people in the face." And I'm like, "That's a good idea," And then 10 years later, I was probably promoting KK's Priest on his podcast, and he said, "Man, it's 25-year anniversary of Jugulator. This is a good time to do it. We'll call it Return to Death Row." And I'm like, "Let's do it." So, last year he started sending me ideas, song ideas, and it just rolled along. It was exactly what we wanted to do.
Will there be did this perhaps spark your interest in doing something a little bit more lengthy, like a full-length album?
Well, actually, that was the talk right from the start. The idea, he had it mapped out. Jamey's like this professional. He loves music and loves what he does. And he's like, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a 6-song EP, release it. And then during the summer, whenever we can, we're going to release a full 10-length record, brand new songs. And the EP is just going to come out and smash people in the face. And that's how we're going to do it. So, yeah, that's the plan. It's hard at this time right now because I just finished up the KK's Priest new record. And that's being mixed right now. So that's going to take a lot of time up the next year or so. But I know there'll be time frames where I can start recording the new record.
When it comes to your solo work, how do you approach the creative process? Because I'm sure it's different from more of an album setting, like with KK's project. So how do you approach it creatively when it's your own stuff?
It's no different. I sing to whatever the song fits. This one, Jamey was sending ideas, and a lot of it was there. The meat and potatoes was already there. But I just sing. I hear the song, and whether there's a guide vocal already, maybe an idea that somebody had, and I just start singing. I use my voice. I don't try to sound like anybody else. But the good thing about having a voice like mine is you can sing so many different ways and styles, from really heavy hardcore, a little bit of a death metal to a 70s sound, to an 80s sound. My voice just fits so many different. So it's great. It's great when you work on songs because you just start singing, really. You just start singing, and whatever fits the song you do.
You mentioned Judas is a very professional guy. So tell me a little bit more about working with him. Once he pitched you the idea and it took you like 20-something years to marinate, or 10 years to marinate on it, when it came time to actually work together, how was that relationship?
Oh, it's easy, and it was fast. He would send these ideas from the start, and I would work on them and send them back to him. And I remember the first song I did was Die While We're Alive, and I sent it back, and he was like, "Dude, this is so great. I got goosebumps. This is amazing." And then he told me, about 3 songs in, I would send you a song maybe the night before, or maybe early in the morning. And at noon, Nikki Belmore and I would be sitting in the studio working on stuff, and my computer would ding, and we'd go, "There's Ripper's vocals. He's already done." And that's how it really would go. There was only one song that I told him I wanted to redo some lines in it, and that was The Night, Take It Back, which was originally called Take Back the Night. So I have to look down to paper to see what it's called now, because I keep forgetting. Because they were a little raspier, the verses. So I wanted to kind of make them a little cleaner and change them. But everything I sent him, I never redid anything. I never added anything, redid anything. But I sent him a lot of vocals because I would double everything I would do the regular verse, and then I'd do a low one underneath of it. Choruses always had probably 3-part choruses. I would send them 10 to 12 vocal tracks on every song. And my idea behind that was Nikki and Jamey could use all of them, or they could pick and choose and take lines out and don't use the harmony, use the harmony. But it was easy and fun. I mean, it was when it was sent to me, it was sounded almost like it was already, the music sounded. I think the drums had to be redone. I think it was a machine, which I didn't even know that it sounded real. Everything sounded so good, so it made it so easy to work with.
Watching what he did with Dee Snider on his last 2 records, did that inspire you and give you the confidence to work with Jamey, or you were already confident that a product with his hand on it was going to represent you well?
Oh, I was 100% confident when he said it. Just because, first of all, I always would listen to Hatebreed and think, man, how, what's cool about Hatebreed is if I sang my style under Hatebreed, it would sound killer as well. And that's, because I just had the same thing with a band called Benediction out of England, and their last record they released, I remember messaging Darren and saying, dude, I said, Dax, my vocals would sound killer under your music, So but when I did hear Dee Snider's record, you're absolutely right. I mean, I thought, this is so good. These Dee Snider records are so good from Dee. It kicked me in the butt to say yes, finally. I think just hearing those made me go, yeah, I think maybe I should be doing something.
You mentioned one track being a little bit more difficult than the rest. What was it about that song that became a little bit more, a little bit hard to define or to get to where you wanted to go with it?
Well, it was just the verses are up there a little bit higher in your natural voice, and they kind of go along. The vocal idea that Jamey sent me on that song, he sounded really good on too. That wasn't, and it's like, well, I like what he's doing, and I don't want to stray too far from that. And then when I did it, I just felt like I was a little too. The song's fast and heavy. That song, it almost, the guitar parts and the way it rolls, it almost reminds you of a Megadeth song or something. And I just felt like it didn't need the heavy vocals. Super heavy vocals. I almost was trying to give it on the verses. I needed to pull back and give it a cleaner vocal line, old school cleaner vocal line. And it was just trying to get it. And I only did a few lines. It was funny because the verses, if you hear them, they still have this mix between clean and rasp, and it's heavy, but it still has a little, thing to it that makes it really cool. And at first it wasn't my favorite song on the album, but now when I listen to it, it wasn't my favorite song on the album at the time, but I love every song on the EP. I love every song. The 6 songs are all strong. That's what's great. But it had my favorite part in the song at the end of towards the end of the song, that it has this breakdown. Take back the night, do you take it? When you slap in the face, do you know? Do you violate? It's like, this part is so awesome. I'm like, but it was just, you want to capture it right. And even though that song is fast and in your face, you still have to capture it.
When it comes to your vocal performance, you said that creatively nothing really changes from the solo or when you're in a band setting, but vocally for you, do you have the same freedom on your solo stuff that you do, for example, on KK's Priest?
Yeah, definitely on the new KK's Priest. The new KK's Priest is, I think people are going to love it. It's fantastic. I haven't heard the mixed copies, and I just talked to Tony and KK the other day and said, come on, man, you got to start sending me some mixes, because I got to hear this stuff, because I sang it to raw music. But this one's edgier. I think vocally it has more edge to it. Still the same classic ripper, but I tried to give it more balls. Maybe it was coming off of my solo record. It made me want to sing, but that's a voice I love anyways. I mean, you hear me use it at times, but it's just the way it fits music. You just do it and you roll with it.
Outside of working with Jamey, when you look back at this EP, what do you feel like it was the most gratifying experience for you?
I think just putting out a class record, class EP with a classic lineup and total pro, amazing production. But I think it's just a strong EP. I think the songs are strong. It's going back to my roots, you know, like Jamey and I said, we wanted Jugulator and, you know, Beyond Fear. We wanted something that was getting back, and he loves, you know, Jamey's like, dude, I've heard you sing Sepultura and it's unbelievable. And your voice, you could do anything. We got to get that balls and straightforward metal record. And that's how I started. You know, my first bands, you know, Brain Aside and bands like that, they were heavy. You know, I grew up listening to Testament and Death Angel and you know, Anthrax is one of my favorites. Besides Dio, Maiden, Priest, Metal Church, you know, Sabotage. So I think I was a big thrash fan as well. So I like to incorporate. I just think singing a little ballsier as well as singing high notes. I like versatility. I grew up with David Bowie and Rob Halford and Ronnie Dio and John Oliva. These guys told stories with their voices and they had characters. I like it. It's just my characters sometimes happen to be super metal and thrashy and heavy, or, you know, sound like it's something sung from the 70s Rainbow record or something. You know?
How have you worked on your vocal range and on your vocal over the years? Do you take time to perfect certain things that you feel like they can get better? Do you take some lessons here and there? What is your take on your own instrument?
Well, I don't really take any lessons, but I always try to get better. I watch other singers. I mean, I got better from listening to Chris Cornell at that time of my life. I mean, listening to even songs like Cochise. I mean, not one of his best vocal performances, but the style of voice he was using, I didn't have. So I kind of, you know, I learned to sing this middle of the road, raspy, in between falsetto and chest voice. And that was probably from Chris Cornell. I also learned from him that you don't have to be spot on. When you hear albums like Bad Motorfinger, it's raw, man. It's raw but I listen to people all the time. I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, I've listened to a lot of David Bowie. So now I've brought some more characters into my voice, because you know, I grew up singing in musicals and choir and music, and you know, you always got to learn. Anybody's got to learn, you know. God forbid you don't want your doctor to stop learning, do you? Mm-hmm. So you always want to get better. I watch anybody. I learn what not to do. I watch local bands and professional bands, and I watch them, and I'll go, I don't want to do that.
I was actually just going to ask you this, considering your history, the legacy that you have. Are you a horrible person to go to a show to because you constantly analyze the singer and ruin for everybody else around you? Or
no, I do it inside. I learn what not to do, and I'll learn what to do, but I'll never. The only thing I'll say about local bands or singers is, well, if they're really, really bad, I might whisper to my buddy, holy crap, they're terrible. But I'll never say that. If an opening band, I would do more of out loud the good things they do, and man, these guys are phenomenal. And but no, I actually don't even talk at shows. I kind of stand in a corner and hide and watch shows usually. And people, you know, it's kind of the way I do things.
Hiding from the paparazzi?
No, I like them. I just kind of sometimes don't want to get in a long conversation at a club with somebody, but I don't hide from anybody. I'm just strangely enough, I'm kind of a quiet kind of guy, you know. When it goes to that, I don't go seeking the attention. I don't wear a big hat, and you know, I'll go with this hat on and a black shirt and I'll just stand back like this. And if I don't make eye contact, no one will say anything. And now that I've lost a bunch of weight, it's really funny because I'll have people stare at me and they can tell they're going, is that him? I don't know. It doesn't look like him. So it's kind of funny.
You've worked with some incredible musicians over the years. You've been in some incredible bands and projects. Is there someone still left out there that you haven't worked with that you would love to partner up at some point in time?
I think Tony Iommi would be one. I've always said his guitar riffs and my vocals would just be, and Geezer too. So let me not, because Geezer's, oh God, what a bass player. Watching him play bass is magical. Geezer and I think a couple guys that I would, Scott Ian, you know, his guitar riffs. I've always thought it'd be fun to do that. And Zach Wild. It's always people who have played guitar riffs like that, But number one would be Iommi, and that would be number one.
Of all the bands you've been in and all the projects you've been involved, which one do you feel gave you the most room to grow as an artist?
I think, it's funny to say this, but I think Judas Priest, because Glenn's the one that originally tapped in and said, sing a death metal part underneath this when I did Jugular, and that was heavier than I've sang before. So I think he's the one who tapped into different. He was the one who almost said to me, try this, do it try this, whereas I might not have realized or might not have ever thought that I could use all the different I mean, I could change my voice. Changing your voice is one thing, but singing in a really wide range of characters is different. So I think that might have been the one that, some people might not agree, but that was probably the one that really told me to do whatever I want.
You're talking about Judas Priest. I have to ask you this. On Rolling Stone magazine, you mentioned that you felt that was a little bit of a disservice for them not to include all the members of the former members of Judas Priest during the induction into the Hall of Fame. Do you feel like that's a disservice to the legacy of the band that the Hall is doing, or maybe the band could have done something about it, but they chose not to?
No, the Hall has nothing to do with it. I mean, there's no rules, and the Hall doesn't tell them what members to put in there. You know what? I didn't go in. That I think the disservice to me was not to even have a call from the band or management to say, hey, congratulations, the band's going in, we want to thank you. Almost 10 years, a Grammy nomination, a movie loosely based on them. That kind of sucked, not surprising. This is a band that last year announced they wanted to go to one guitar player. So it's not really surprising that they would, some of the decisions they make. I think what also probably was the thing was that nobody who was there that night even mentioned my name at the ceremony. I mean, you could have said, hey, we want to say thanks to Tim Rip Owens. He was a big help for a few years. It's not like I did one tour and one record with the band.
I was just going to say.
Acknowledgement from them. It doesn't even, I think that was my only thing that amazed me, that they couldn't have said my name up there and thanked me. I didn't watch it. But, congratulations, they went in. Good for them.
They're not the only band to have done something similar to this. Do you think bands shy away from recognizing old musicians or musicians that have been with them in the past because they're afraid of hurting the sensitivity of the current members of the band? Like, where you land on that?
Les Binks was only in the band 2 years. So, I mean, it's not like, and that was in the, late 70s. So it's not like you're talking about getting old members, I get it. Judas Priest has had a lot of members. I think the right members went in. Let me get that straight. I think Les should have went in. I think Richie should have went in, to be honest. He's been with them now for a long time. He got to be there though, so good for him. But I think he should have went in. But you know what? It's everybody makes their own decisions. I think the right guys went into the Hall of Fame. It's not as much that I didn't officially go into the Hall of Fame. That's not my thing I ever really care about. I just can't believe even a phone call from them. I mean, to me, it's still shocking that, unless they're threatening me with a lawsuit, I don't get a phone call from the management ever. So it's kind of shocking. And it's funny, out of all that being said, I love the guys. I mean, they treated me great. We were family, but I guess it's just, there's a difference how bands are managed and decisions are made. And I think that decision would be proof is in a pudding when you put Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and you see how bands are run. I mean, that's why one band's playing 12,000 seat, 15,000 seat venues.
One last question for you. You mentioned you're working right now on the new KK's Priest record. When the opportunity came to join that project, was that a chance for you to right some wrongs of the past, or was that more of a turning of a new leaf and being involved in something that you really believed in?
Well, something I believed in. I don't have to right any wrongs in the past. I mean, my exit from Judas Priest had to happen for myself, and Rob had to come back. So there was nothing bad that happened with that. And there's never really been anything bad that's happened. We've stayed friends, stayed in contact. Ken and I really stayed in contact. He would come watch every time I played in England, he would come out and watch the show. If I was playing 2 hours away, he would always come out. It was just, I put a lot of records out, and when Ken asked if I wanted to do it, I heard the music and said, this is great. We're friends. This is a perfect thing for us to do. So it was a no-brainer.
All I gotta say is this, man. When a band is looking for a great vocalist, I feel like you get the knock on the door every single time. Because I've never seen you involved in a project where you don't deliver.
Listen, I love to do it. I should be singing today, but I got a whole day of interviews, but I got another song to do. I sing songs here every day for people all over the world. If they want to get a hold of me, I'm going to do a plug here, rippervocals@gmail.com. Until I'm on the road, I might as well do this, rippervocals@gmail.com. I'd sing from death metal to hardcore to 70s, 80s, 90s to stuff from Jesus Christ Superstar to Christmas. Everything's hard rock, but I love to sing. I can sing anything somebody throws at me, and if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it.
I'm going to put that in the description of the video so folks can reach out to you and get a hold of you if they need some vocals. Tim, thank you very much for taking the time today. I know you're a busy guy. This is one of those bucket list check marks that I can put on my bucket list of folks that I would love to have on the channel to talk about music. So thank you very much.
You got it. Anytime. We'll do it again. We'll talk about whatever else.
All right. Next time you release some new material, we'll talk.
Okay. All right.
Take care, man. All the best.